Okay, we are here in Kilcummin in Kerry with one of Kerry's greatest and longest running fans, Dan Dwyer. Dan, how are you getting on?
Fine, thank you, Owen. Welcome to Kilcommon.
Thank you very much. I was just saying I've come here directly from Johnny Cullity's house, the great Kerry goalkeeper, played for Kerry in both codes, and it turns out that you and Johnny actually worked with each other.
We worked together for 35 years.
Unreal.
35 years, yes. And a nice man to work with.
Yeah.
A gentleman.
St. Finian's Hospital in Killarney, the one that overlooks Fitzgerald Stadium.
Right, it's closed now about 10 years and nothing done with it so far.
The reason why I wanted to come out and have a chat with you, Dan, is just because of the fact that you've been going to Kerry games for so long. So, when was your first All Ireland?
My first All Ireland was in 59, Kerry and Galway, and the score was 3-7 to Kerry, 1-4 to Galway. But I was only 13 and a half, and I went with a friend of mine from Park Road, a man called Jack Ryan, who's now in London. And I remember going up on the train that morning. That was my first final. And I suppose I remember it for the reason that Mick O'Connell was centre field and he was getting a rough time from uh, what's his name, the Galway player.
Personal.
No, Sean Purcell and Stockwell, they were just finishing up. That time there were two great players there. He was a big strong for the centre field. But in here, Connell got calf injured and they brought out Tom Long, who was playing the 40. They brought Long out. Oh, Frank Ivers was the name of the man. He was Macking O'Connell. He's a big, strong man. He was an army man. But I remember they bringing out O'Connell. They bring out Tom Long out of the field and he rectified the situation and they won well. They won well the same day, yeah.
Conway well respected at that time.
You see, they had a lot of good players, like, so, as I say, Purcell now, who a lot of people in Ireland will tell you was probably one of the best all-round footballers they ever saw. But he was just going off at that stage. You know, he was well into his 30s. And Stockwell as well. But they were known, as you know, as the Tomb Twins. And they were respected and known all over Ireland.
Yeah.
They were great players. But that was my first final now, to 63 years ago. But I try to recall some of the... But I know the man that went with me on the train that year, and we were, of course, our first time in Dublin, excited, coming home on the train, yeah.
Was it usually the train that you got up and down to those matches in those days?
Yes, there'd be a couple of trains leaving Killarney and arriving home that evening. They would be in Killarney about 10 or 11 o'clock. And the trains used to be packed that time. All the people from South Kerry, um, they'd drive up to Killarney and get on the thing, and then they'd have to drive home again down to Portmagee and Village Island and all them places. But there wouldn't be as many going nowadays. With some of them will go from Fadenford by airport. More of them will drive it. More goes in the buses, Kerry supporters bus, whom I do travel with now most of the time. But that time to all the train.
Can I ask you then, Dan, there's living in Dublin, people like to give me a bit of stick because Kerry people don't travel to matches there, or so they like to say. What's been your experience down through the years of the level of attendance from Kerry people at games in Croke Park?
Well, I suppose there's a point in it. Like, I suppose, if Kerry were playing a quarter final of the All Ireland Championship above in Dublin, you might have only maybe about 10,000 Kerry people. Whereas when it comes to the final, you'll probably have 25 and 30,000. Because a lot of the people living in Dublin from Kerry, they will want to go to the final, and they seem to get tickets maybe easier than some of the people that are going the whole time. But like, I'd say that is true now. Like, if you take the cock huddlers, if the cock huddlers are going well, even in the Munster final, you could have 25,000 cock people. And if it was an All Ireland final, Mayo the same way. Mayo, I would say Mayo are probably the best followers that I have ever come across. But the real Kerry genuine follower will go to all the championship games and most of the league games if he can at all. The fella then that's kind of we call it a watery fella. He'll only go to a game that he think will be a good game.
I don't get the sense that you're a watery fella at all. You go to most of the games, do you?
Well, I go to all the championship games and most of the league games. I would say that I have never missed an All Ireland final or a semi-final since '59. That's 63 years ago. The only game I missed was Kerry and Armagh in the championship there a number of years ago. The Kerry beat Armagh. The Darren got a goal in the last 3 minutes to clinch it. I was in America at that time.
Right,
I was
okay.
in American holidays, so I missed that game. But that was the only That was the only championship game I missed. I don't think I missed many league games either.
Yeah.
No, I go to them all if I can at all.
It's great, isn't it? I know it's changed a little bit now, but all of our summers tend to revolve around the Kerry football team, structuring holidays around when the All-Ireland is on or when the All-Ireland semi-finals are on.
Well, they do. I suppose at the start of the year, a lot of people don't think they'll be figuring out when is the All-Ireland this year. We expect to be there.
Yeah.
You see, it's with the history following Kerry football, to the kind of some Kerry people think that we have a God-given right to be there every year. Now we're there fairly often, but we have no God-given right to be there every year. But some Kerry people do think that if Kerry aren't in Croke Park, that it's not the same at all.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think?
This year's.
Well, do you think it's that Kerry generally should be there? Do you expect to go into every year thinking that Kerry will be there?
Well, I suppose, you can't change people's views and everyone is entitled to their opinion, but I don't think we have any given right. The only right we have is that we have been good enough to contest so many All-Irelands and win 37, and I think they were beaten in up to maybe 28 or 30, so that's a lot. That's a lot of All-Irelands since the first one was played in 1887.
What's the best All-Ireland you were ever at?
I suppose the 77 semi-final between Dublin and Kerry, that had everything. Like it was a great game. Like there were great Dublin teams, and Kerry were very good at the time. And Dublin beat us that year. They beat us in the 76 final as well, of course. But of course, 75, I suppose, would have been. That was the weekend I actually got married. I went in my honeymoon to Waterford on a Friday night, and the first place I made off was Croke Park. It was my wife's Nuala's her name. It was her first time going to Croke Park ever, and she was there once since ever, only once. She would have been interested. She'd listen to the games. She'd meet the players. I've introduced her to a lot of players down the years at socials and everything, and she'd be listening to the lads talk about it. But no, she's been only in Croke Park twice ever. But we went there that weekend of our honeymoon in Dublin in 75, which is 47 years ago now. So that'll tell you that I'm getting old.
It's a hell of a dedication to Kerry that you include a match in your honeymoon.
Well, to me it was the second most important thing. I suppose the marriage came first, but we got married on Friday and we went to Water for Saturday night, and then Sunday we drove up that morning up to Dublin. Yeah,
very good, very good. So when it comes to some of the great players you've seen around that time, I know you were looking at the 1959 team and the Irish press. You have a clipping from the Irish press from that era.
Yeah, I have that since 59. It was on the evening press the Friday night before the All-Ireland final, and it was just giving a preview, and there was a photograph of about 10 of the players there. So I held on to it, and I have that photocopied for several people.
Brilliant.
For several people, yeah.
I might just grab it there. You can talk us through it.
Now, the first man here is Tom Long. Tom, of course, is a West Kerry man from Vintry, first cousin of Paddy O'Shea's, and a school teacher in Killarney for years. Great player, one of the best centre forwards I've seen. And if you ask me why so, he could break the tackle. No matter how strong a man was, Tom Long would get inside him. He mightn't be a high scoring, but he was some footballer. Then John Dowling, of course, the one and only, a man I know personally, gave a lot of time to juveniles in his club, Stan Road, and a very nice man. Next man we have is Seamus Murphy. Seamus died too young. One of the big things about Seamus Murphy when he was playing for Kerry, cornerback, he would never have to foul the player. He'd keep him outside him the whole time, and he had more blocks with his two hands blocking down players of any player I ever know. He was a great cornerback. Now, he was a great centre field player too, died a young man. Of course, Mick O'Connell then, the great Mick O'Connell. Now, people will often be talking about who's the best player that you ever saw. Now, I've seen a lot of them in 63 years. And the nearest to come to Mick O'Connell, I'd say, would be a Derry man called Jimmy Keever, who was also a basketball player. But Mick O'Connell, why so would I rate him one of the best ever? His class, his skill, it was unreal. I remember Eamon O'Donoghue and Brendan Lynch, the two wing forwards, when he'd get the ball out centre field, with either left or right, a pinpoint pass right into their chest. It was easy actually play with him, but his fielding, It was majestic. I don't think the likes of them, there might be players that will win more, they might have a bigger name, but for anyone that saw Mick O'Connell playing, I don't think that we will see the likes of him again. He had a fine figure, fine physique, always very fit, great free taker. He scored 8 points in the 62 final against Roscommon. He was playing in the field. Between freeze and play, he scored 8 points. Then with Kevin Coffey, who originally came from Beaufort, played for Clonagale in Dublin, died a young man, died of cancer. Jerome O'Shea, I met him a few times. Carsey Vian, great cornerback, big man. All his brothers played as well with the Marys. Then there was Johnny Quality, the man we spoke about already. Johnny, of course, only for injuring his knee in the Railway Cup in 56. Johnny would probably have been one of the all-time great, like Colm Cooper, a corner forward. But due to the fact that he hurt his knee, they tried him in goal a few times. He was in goal for the Kerry Hull at the time, and he stayed in goal then for a number of years. But great corner forward. I've seen him playing with his Kerry corner forward. He could sell a dummy, he could send you left, right, and the pinpoint passes. He had a great brain for the game. And then the last man here is Sean Murphy. Now, Sean Murphy in 59 was marquee fella called Hawley McDonough, and he was a wing back. And Hawley McDonough, I don't think he touched the ball 2 or 3 times in the whole game. It was one of the best displays ever seen in a final.
Right. Very good.
Sean Murphy.
So that's the team around this era. So there's lots of memories, obviously, of the great Kerry team of the 70s and 80s, and obviously the great team of the 2000s, and hopefully this is the start of another great Kerry team. But that era of football, your childhood team that you grew up watching, do you think that they get enough credit, or do you think maybe that we know enough about them?
Well, probably not. To see, at that time now, if you're taking Kerry going back 40 years ago, there was only the one paper. There wasn't maybe a television in every house, and it is the Kerry man. And if a household didn't get it, they would know the facts. But now, between daily papers and television, all the media outlets at the moment, it is being exploited a lot. What I mean exploited is that it has more of a visual showing now all over the country, and probably clubs are better run and everything. So I would say that the present players are getting probably a better deal in general. I would say so. But if you compare the present Kerry team now, whom I think should win by 4 or 5 points, 3 or 4 points, but on the other hand, they're good, and their defence is playing better this year, whether it is due to the fact that Paddy Tally from County Down is with them. But still, every day we go out playing, you'll get one for the little star one day, but there are 4 or 5 players that are not playing up to standard at the moment, and if they do play well on Sunday, I do expect that we should be good enough to beat Galway by maybe 3 or 4 points, maybe 5 points. But on the other hand, Galway are a very traditional team. They'll play football with you. They mightn't have the hype of Mayo or Dublin, but they're true traditional footballers, and they play a lot of the game like Kerry, good, long, accurate kick passing, and just have to counteract that. So I expect a good game and a close game on Sunday.
Very good. One last thing, what's the plan for the weekend? Any traditions around All Ireland weekend from your perspective that you tend to do other than the match?
No, well, I'm going up by bus. I go with the Kerry supporters. Sometimes I go up with them, more times I go by train, and more times I go by car. But I usually go with the Kerry supporters. We'll be leaving for now Sunday morning at 7 o'clock. And we'll have arrived to the Putty still about 10:30, 11:15. And we'll have our breakfast there. And then we'll head on from Mountjoy Square, park the bus, and walk around the city for a while, and then into the game. And on our way home then that night, around 7:30 or 8 o'clock, we'll be calling for our lunch to the Putty still. So that will be our day. We'll arrive home then, probably into Fadden 4, maybe 11 o'clock, 11:30. And then if we win, of course, the celebrations Monday night, and that'll be only starting. If they do win, it will be going down to Kinmare, and I hope to be going down there if I'm alive. Eoin Sheahan, even though I don't know him personally, know his mother, I'd be going down there, and I have a habit of going to places when they do win the Sam Maguire. I actually went down to when Declan Stallone was captain in 2006. I drove down of a bad night. I had a mini car at the time. I drove down to Drummond, and then I coming home that night. The storm was so bad that it was actually rocking the car, and it was around 3 o'clock in the morning. But it was a great night. I mean, it was great to think in a small club like the Drummond that you were the captain of the Kerry team and you were the trainer, Jack O'Connor. I know both of them, and I did think it would be a great night, and there was a couple more from Killarney there as well. But I enjoyed that night better than if I was over in Tralee in the middle of 20,000. Yeah. Meeting people, and South Kerry people in general are very, very friendly, and I enjoyed the night immensely. Then when Darren won it, when Darren was captain in North 9, there was a great night in Glenbeigh. There was thousands turning up there that night. So I do go to a lot of these functions too. I like meeting people and having the crack and talking about olden days and who's good enough for the Kerry team and who isn't, and till all part of the Kerry way.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, it's been a pleasure catching up with you. Thank you so much for giving us some of your memories, and enjoy Sunday.
Right on. Thank you very much.